Broadcasting from beautiful, sexy, steamy Studio City, California. I'm Ken Napzok, and this is the Napzok Files. We are back with another show about life, the universe, and everything. Douglas Adams would approve. And my guest this week is Kristian Harloff, Part 2.
Part 2.
You're back.
I'm back.
You came back.
Yeah, why not?
Glad. The fans demanded it.
Yeah, well, I think you demanded it, and I owe you. I think you have pictures of me somewhere, so I have to do it again.
I have something with pictures.
Something with pictures.
And last time, we quite frankly didn't get deep into Schmoeville. And I think the
at all,
Schmoevillians want to hear
how it started, what happened,
So let's dive right in. We got to get right into this. 2006, you're doing stand-up comedy. You're firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
You have weird girls in every corner of your room. You're just living the life.
You make it sound so much more glamorous than it really was.
Oh, it was. Well, there was nothing glamorous about some of the things being done, but it was fun.
Thank God my wife doesn't listen to this show.
No. Your wife doesn't listen to anything I do, and that's a good thing. That's
Me
a smart
either.
thing. Yeah.
She still thinks I'm doing stand-up.
Yeah. I'm not going to go see Harry Potter, honey. I'm doing a set down at the Ha Ha.
Right.
So you're firing all cylinders. Suddenly, kind of without warning to your friends, and not that conversations weren't had, but it was like Kristian's firing all cylinders on stand-up. Next you know, you're really nose to the grind at Silver, doing all that stuff, and then suddenly you're out of stand-up, and you're reviewing movies with Mark Ellis in your room.
Yeah, what was funny was we started doing a current TV first. I was still doing stand-up, though, because I was still doing stand-up, and the white boy comedy thing was still happening because I was asking people to do from the show. Because when we first started doing it on current TV, we would ask comedians to come in. It was great because current TV paid everybody.
Right.
So it was easier, and it actually helped a lot because we got guys in, again, like Steve Renazzisi and Sebastian and a bunch of different people who would come in and they would do.
I even did one.
Yeah, of
I
course,
reviewed Semi-Pro horribly. I did a horrible review of a
Is
horrible
that the one
movie.
You did?
Yeah.
Semi-Pro? Wow. You can still find that if you go to Current TV. Yeah, if you go to
Okay.
guys, so check that out because I want to go do it. Just go to Google and then go the Harloff and Ellis show. And it's a Semi-Pro review, and you'll see.
Oh, boy, I believe that was it.
That was it.
God.
And then our buddy and Lou Santini did a whole bunch of them too. He did a couple. So we started doing that at Current TV because you'd mentioned the last time I was on, we had talked about our friend Martini, who was a stand-up comedian.
Hilarious stand-up.
Really good. And her and I we just were buddies. Again, she dated Adam Winkleman. So her and I became friends, and we were talking for a bit, and once she moved to San Francisco, she called me up and she said, listen, she was an executive over Current TV, and she goes, look, we're doing this pilot that we want to take a whole bunch of like funny people, just a bunch of people, and you review television pilots, and just if you know anybody funny, then call them. So you weren't available, so I called Ellis, and
it wouldn't have worked, but
no, it wouldn't work. No, but I called Ellis, and they were paying us some pizza and beer at the time, the first initial one. So he and I we watched a couple of television pilots. We submitted our footage. They really liked us, and that started the relationship with. And then we did a couple more TV shows, and then they were like, "Well, why don't you guys try a movie?" And we did The Heartbreak Kid with Ben Stiller, which is, horrendous.
Yeah. Malin Ackerman, yeah.
Oh, it's really bad. But if you go back and you watch that review on Current TV, we're not on camera together. We're split screen. That's the way we did. And Ellis wanted to keep it that way. Ellis wanted to stay off because he was, again, it's from being from the stand-up world. You don't want to rely on anybody,
right?
So and I remember being at the CPK, California Pizza Kitchen in Burbank.
Yeah, Media Center. Yep.
And I was walking out with him, and I'm like, I go, look, we should try to do it on camera together. I was like, because I think that you and I have a good back and forth. I think it'll work. He's like, all right. So we tried it and it worked, and then we just started doing it.
And he's been stuck with you ever since.
He's been stuck with it ever since. And then we stayed with Current. And then, do you know the whole Rotten Tomatoes story and everything too?
No, well, tell the fans. They want to hear that.
Some of them know. I mean, we've talked about it before on the podcast too. But what happened was that we had a Rotten Tomatoes and Current TV came up with, they wanted to do, because of Martini, she pitched an idea to do a full-fledged half-an-hour pilot that they would do on Current TV every week with Mark and I as the host. And we shot the pilot. It came out great. It was a couple of different segments. I had the pilot somewhere. I should put it up on Schmo Plus. Yeah, and anyway, it was they loved it. And like, okay, this is going to happen. It's going to be a Rotten Tomato show with the guys hosting. And it took about a year with all the development stuff that was going on. And it's like, I remember Martini went, hang in there. The
Right.
deals are almost done. It's going to happen. You guys are going to be hosting it. They love it, blah, blah. And this happened forever, too. And she started getting frustrated. And then I remember I was on Peter Roth's desk when I was temping at Warner Brothers. Who's the president of Warner Brothers. I was temping for him for a little bit. And I got an email. She goes, look, I'm out of here. I'm leaving Current TV. I'm taking off. I really think you guys should do the same, but I understand if you don't want to, because you guys are working on this show. And I was like, yeah, we should probably listen to Current.
What they got to say.
Yeah, we should listen to them first before we take off. So then Mark and I are in Alaska, and we read on our buddy Max Cook sends us an article. What's this shit? This is what he sends. And they had put in this Brett Ehrlich, who was their host. He was a really funny guy we've had on the show as well, too, but he was one of their current hosts. And him and this girl, I forget what her name, Judy, I don't remember what her name was. And they put them as the host without telling us. Just replaced us. Our show.
Right.
Replaced us and said, this is the show. And they never called us or emailed us or anything.
Nothing.
So we're like, and that was when I hit rock bottom at that point. Because
what year was that? Was that 07?
This was end of 2007, 2008. Like 2008. This was like the beginning of 2008.
Okay, so this is after Strauss had been shot.
This was way
right.
after Strauss.
Right.
So yeah, this is in 2008 because I was in Vegas. In Alaska, and I remember just walking in the snow, going, "I'm temping right now." I'm trying to my girlfriend just moved in with me. It's just myself and my girlfriend. I'm like, I'm not doing stand up anymore. I thought I had this show. I got nothing. I'm like, what am I doing right now? It was so cold. It was literally that rock bottom moment. I'm walking around. I'm like, this sucks.
It's a very Rocky-ish moment, right?
It really, honestly, man, it really was. I remember the exact street in Alaska where what it looked like and everything as I was walking. Just the snow. It was so much snow, and I remember just being like, I had been in dark places before,
right?
But I was in, that place. Just like this, really just got ripped out of me like that. So I was done. And then we got back to Los Angeles, started talking about, why don't we just start a YouTube channel? So we've been wanting to do for so long. Let's just start a YouTube channel. Let's just do it. Let's, And at the time, there were maybe 5 or 6 movie reviewers doing it at the time. I think Spill.com was doing it at that time. I think Grace Randolph was doing it. I know Fury the Film Fan, and there was another guy, Mr. Black, I think the guy's name was at the time.
So no Johns, no stuff.
Johns didn't come in until about a year after we did. He had a YouTube channel, but he didn't start doing movie reviews until a year after us.
Okay.
We started in 2008. We started the channel, and we were I remember just thinking to ourselves, all right, let's see how this goes. And Martini edited the first couple of reviews. She was with us she was part of our crew for a good 2 years after we started the YouTube channel.
Didn't she edit the G.I. Joe review?
Most likely.
I was a little upset with that review. It took out some of my best lines.
Oh, okay, then most likely, yeah, because...
But I always want to put the Twilight poster in, so that's my fault.
Yeah, you get trouble. You still get shit for that. But no, she edited a lot because, to her credit, she was the one who came... Her and I went back and forth with the name. She's like, there should be something with Joe Schmoes, is what she said. And I was like, well, what about, we know... it was like, what about Schmoes? No, Schmoes. She's like, what about Schmoes Nose? To this day, she says she didn't say that, but I have the I am thing. She says, I never
saved it?
Yeah, I have it.
For court proceedings.
Because that was like a monumental I am machine. She said Schmoes Nose, and I said, what about Schmoes No? And she's like, yeah, all right, Schmoes No. So we called it Schmoes No from that, but that back and forth. And Ellis hated it from the beginning. And
still does.
Yeah, he still does. But yeah, so we started Schmoes No, and Martine's like, here's what we're gonna do. She was like the Charlie, is what we call Charlie's Angel. She was the Charlie, and we would send our footage, and she would edit it, but we only got out maybe one review a week.
Right.
Maybe.
And you were paying to see these movies.
Yeah. We would go and sometimes sneak into movies too, and that was it. So it was she would edit it. Like, okay, great, we're gonna see something this week maybe, and then she just got busy. She was engaged. She was in San Francisco. She wasn't sure. She was an executive in another company now, and not a current anymore, and was getting more work. So the reviews weren't getting done, and then we're like, we still want to do this.
Right.
So Mark and I were like, well, how can we do this and make it work? And Mark's like, well, I'll take a crack at editing them. and then Mark stepped up and started editing the videos.
Okay.
And then it like went back and forth at first. It went Mark Martini.
Okay.
Mark Martini. I mean, Mark edits all of them.
To this day.
Yeah.
Right.
Except our top 5. My buddy from college, Aaron, he edits all of our top 5 videos for like FandangoMovies.com. But yeah, Mark edits all of them, man. So he, so Mark took over, started editing, and we at the same time we're probably only doing 1 or 2 a week.
Right.
And then just started building the audience, and the thing, I think that the main thing was, and we always said this from day one, is we wanted to do it to talk movies with the fans. That was the whole point, was the fact to have conversations with people. So whoever was watching our videos, if they agreed or disagreed with what we were saying, we would talk with them. Because that's the whole point. They're like, oh, guys, I just saw W, and I don't agree. I actually think that Josh Brolin was terrible. I would always, or Mark would always respond and be like, oh, sorry you felt that way, but here's the thing, blah, blah, blah. And if they were respectful in the comment, we were respectful in the answer. And honestly, we were respectful in the answer even if they weren't.
Even if they weren't, right.
But most of the time, that's the one thing I still, to this day, about Schmoeville, 90% of the time, it's a great comment. They're great fans.
The troll culture has also grown greatly over the last 3-4 years,
Yeah.
I think, since you guys started. That's kind of now it's a thing to be a troll.
Right.
Did you know, how long before this started did you know Ellis?
I knew Ellis. I met Ellis in 2003.
It's about the time I first saw him, yeah.
Yeah,
Fat Ellis.
Fat Ellis. He showed up to a barbecue because a guy that I went to college with, I knew, I was an acquaintance. Like, my friends knew his friend more than I did, but then he started hanging out, and he's like, look, I got a buddy that's coming into town, and he wants to do stand-up. Can I bring him by the barbecue, and you can kind of give him some advice? And so in walks this, fat kid with the bleach blonde, like bad bleach blonde hair, that his sister did for him, and he walks in, and I'm just like, oof, who's this character? But then you start talking to him, and he's Ellis.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, he's hilarious, and he's just a good dude.
But can I just say, my memory of him early as a stand-up, when I started at the Comedy Store in 2003 as well, when I was doing shows there every now and then, Brian Irwin's show and everything. Yeah. I distinctly remember Ellis. I don't distinctly remember his act. I just remember thinking, oof, that kid's not funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then years later, it was like, oof, this kid's a genius.
It's funny, too, because
it's a testament to work.
Yeah, it's work. I mean, his first gig that I hooked him up with was at the El Dorado.
Probably where I
might be where you saw him.
Yeah, now you're right.
That's probably where he was, because it was
I definitely saw him at the Belly Room, but
it's probably El Dorado, because I sent him to TK to get it for his first gig.
Pretty much every TK show.
You were probably hosting it.
I was either there or doing a show.
Yeah. So
I didn't start hosting till 2005.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, and I remember going back after I was kind of out of it for a little bit, going back to the Comedy Store in 2006, 2007, and seeing Ellis and watching him, and be like, man, he puts references together so well. He was doing like some Star Wars joke, and I remember just going, he's clever, man. That's the thing with him, is that like you can see he doesn't have to just like overthink stuff. His brain just puts it together, and he throws out that reference. And I think that's why we work together so well too, because I'll do that kind of loud, abrasive thing to where, and then he'll just throw out a line that just works. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
no, he's. But again, it's a testament to him going into his stand-up, and I'll have him on the show and digging it. I mean, it's a testament to someone can be funny. And
good luck getting him.
Really?
It's hard for me to get him on a review.
I'll pick him up, bring him over some baby carrots. It'll be all right. But it's a testament to someone who was funny. He was always funny. I have to guess that, going back to his childhood. But stand-up is something you got to work at. So he crafted it, and crafted it very well.
What he does well also is the fact that he's a creature of habit as well, and he lives at the Comedy Store, and that's what you got to do. I mean,
that habit does not include cleaning his apartment, but
no. But he has his mom and his sister that come in to visit. That's what he does. But he was at he just was there. That's what you had to do for the Comedy Store. And like when I was doing it full time, that's what you have to do. You got to live there, and he lives there, and that's his home, and that's why he learned the room. He knows the room. He knows how to use the OR. He'll jump into the belly room. He does the main room. That's his home. He knows how to use it, and that's why. Like again, I was listening to your podcast. I think I can't remember if it was with Joe or who it was with, but you were talking about the Comedy Store, and that it's like that place either took you in or it's like it became like that dungeon that you didn't want to go near. Which and to me it was.
For me, I didn't want to go near it.
Right, and that's to me it was my home because you either adapt to it or you say this is just not for me. And Ellis has adapted to it.
Yeah, I still struggle to you know from when you try to book people, if they're regular at the Comedy Store, I'm like, I think we're booked that week. The Comedy Store is just a bad spot for me.
It's crazy too.
But I love like the improv and I love that kind of stuff.
The Comedy Store.
Comedy Store is dirty.
I loved it.
Literally, figuratively, and emotionally.
It's the Rocky Gym, man. It was so.
That's a good way to put it.
It was.
It smells like it too.
But it was so. But it's. But there's magic in that room, though, man. There really is. Like
I think there's ghosts in the room.
Ghosts that give you magic. I'm telling you, I had some of the best sets of my life.
I had some better sets of the Pink Dot down the street.
Afterwards, telling the guy how bad you bombed at the Comedy Store.
What, $20 for parking?
Yeah.
All right, so you meet up with Ellis,
Yeah.
and my first real memory of you two being together is Grassman and Straws.
Yeah.
2007.
It was
spring of 2007.
Yeah, because it was one of those things. I would go to the Comedy Store and I would see him and hey man, what's going on? And I remember this is so weird that how things work out because I would again Grassman and Straws, we kind of got into it a little bit, but the way Grassman and Straws was, it was a bunch of things that a heightened version of kind of things that happened in my life and with a little bit of a twist on it, and we put it up on Schmo Plus, and it was a sitcom idea that we shot you were in, and so I remember I was at the Comedy Store because I was trying out sets that I wanted to, because I had to do stand up in the show, so I wanted to have my stage persona kind of ready for the pilot, and I remember walking, I saw Ellis, and we're walking from just down the street, and I said to him, I go, oh, there might be actually a part in there for you, and I didn't have a part. I didn't have one. But I remember talking to him, and I'm like, I could write this guy in there. He'd probably be all right. And it was Sean Maroney.
Maroney.
But I'll tell you what, though, the funny thing, I wish that I knew Ellis like I do now. Right. I would have given him like one of the biggest parts in the whole thing because he would have crushed it. But anyway, so I asked him to do it, and he did it, and while he was on set, we would bullshit back and forth too. And we was like, okay, we get along a lot, and then that just led in after Grasping at Straws. That's when the whole Martini Current TV thing happened.
Right. Now, I want to pause for a moment going to Grasping at Straws. So that's a testament, again, I mentioned in the last episode, where you set your sights on something, you're going to try to succeed and do it. Yeah. Pro wrestling, I want to write for WWE, go and do that. I want to do stand-up. I'm going to move out here. I'm going to learn to produce. And you dived into that and almost became a big-time producer on He-Man. That's a whole other story we can talk about. And then along the way, you're like, hey, I want to shoot a TV show. And we're all like, sure, cool, don't we all? And you're like, no, I'm going to do it. And you and I would meet. You'd come by with all these ideas. I was at the farmer's market at the time, and you walked down with your little earbuds in and listen, and you effing did it. Yeah. And we had a fully functional crew, a director, and kind of had a sound guy, and we had a full crew. that sound guy killed me.
That sound guy was awful. What did Rick Ingram say about that guy? Oh, my God. He goes, I can't remember what it was, but Rick Ingram was one of the funniest people on the planet, and we were sitting over, and he wanted to kill the sound guy. I can't remember what the hell he said, but that sound guy was so bad. Anyway,
but then you put it together. I remember being on set the first day, 5 a.m. over at Amalfi in room 5, and I'm there with Lou Santini and Mark Franco, Chip Dornell, and we all looked around, and we're like, wow, this is it. This is legit. Now, of course, it doesn't. No one bought it and everything. The writer strike happened.
That was the problem.
The writer strike hit right when we were debuting that thing.
It was the writer strike because, again, if you see Schmo Plus, a lot of positive reactions to it too, and it lives as an internet series, which is fun too.
But it was a pilot presentation.
It was a pilot presentation. It was if I could have done a lot of things different, sure. I would have. But it was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. It was funny too, and thinking about it as you said it. Eliza Schlesinger, who's a big comedian now, she played Marley in the show. That was originally written for Martini.
Oh, to play? Oh, really?
Marley was supposed to be played by Martini, and Martini couldn't do it. Okay. So, and that's why, because I was going back and forth with Martini about stuff, and that's why her and I kept talking and keeping communications, and then, all the stuff. I mean, because Grasping at Straws was going on from shooting until post. From February, and we started prepping on it in January of 2007, and premiered it in November of 2007. Yeah. So, and then the current TV show with Ellis and I started in August of 2007.
Right. Okay.
So anyway, that's how all that stuff happened. So it's funny how all that really works into each other, because through Grasping at Straws comes the reconnection with Ellis and myself and Martini, and putting all this stuff together, and
all the pieces were in place. And I just was like, great, I'll see you. That was a fun 3 days. And little did I know my future would be intertwined with that.
Isn't that crazy?
Empire as well.
Talk about how you got involved, man.
About the podcast itself?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we wait until we get into the podcast.
We'll get into that. But you guys what makes you? I mean, it's hard to build any kind of internet audience, even though
the same thing as everything else. I'll tell you that.
Oh, so what's the secret? There's a lot of people out there in our fanville who are trying to do it on their own.
Tell people to go fuck themselves. That's what the secret is. Honestly,
okay,
that's the secret. It's
Explain more.
Because I cannot tell you how many times people told me, like, and how many times I heard, you and Mark just doing movie reviews in front of a webcam. No one's gonna care. Oh, why don't you blast out another Facebook thing? No one's gonna care. No one's gonna care. No one's gonna care.
Let me just say, none of you out there, if you were friends with Kristian in 2007, you know this. 2008, every 2 minutes there was a MySpace message from you, and it became punchlines for roasts anytime we did about you. And people still bring that up to me now who haven't really talked to you since then. Oh, yeah, was he still sending out those messages? No, we have 300,000 downloads a week.
Exactly.
Fool.
That's my point. Is because people, my dad always said this too, like people just want to shit on you in the beginning. And then when you're established, then they want to be a part of it. And again, another friend of mine, I won't mention names, I know this is just going to that story. He was working at a pretty big company. Had a pretty big position. And then he got canned. And he's walking around these Hollywood parties and these people are at this point who were used to call him all the time, aren't even looking at him.
Right.
They're not talking to him. I'm at a premiere with him. They wouldn't even talk to him. And this guy's a good guy.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Then a couple months later he lands a job that's even bigger than the last. Like huge job. And everybody, the next premiere I was with him at, is running up to him, same people that were ignoring him the last time. Hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. Blah, blah. And he's just in his head like, fuck you.
Right.
But with a smile on his face.
Right.
Because he's
played it right.
Yeah, of course. But that's the thing, is that you have to, don't listen to people when they say, do what you got to do, because it's again, it's that cliche thing everyone says that's made it and done, and I have hardly made it. But
no, but
you know what I'm saying is, you got to keep, we want to keep building the brand. Like Mark and I just never said, we believed in what we had. That was the thing. That's the main thing, is believe in what you have. Don't because we always believed in the chemistry. We always believed that we were two funny guys that were able to tell our opinions on movies. Our backgrounds spoke for it, and the reactions when we had 100 subscribers. Yeah, we based it off those reactions, because that's ultimately, if those 100 people are enjoying it, then why won't 50,000 enjoy it? And I think that was the thing, is because, like you said, oh, is he still sending out those Facebook things? Yeah, but you remember that I did it. Yeah. So when you pop up, and if you hear us now on Corolla or on Heidi and Frank, or oh wait, did that stem from that? Yeah. Yeah, it did. While you're playing with your ball bag, watching Spider-Man cartoons or whatever you're doing. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with Spider-Man cartoons, but or playing with your ball bag. Right.
Absolutely not. Check it, folks. Check it. Yeah, so did you have at the beginning a game plan with Schmoes? No, other than just you guys knew you had something? Did you think down the line?
I think it was stemming off of that. And Martini's, again, to Martini's credit, she really kind of helped our egos, because she was able to, she knew the internet world way better than we did, and she said that because we had that Rotten Tomatoes show. She said, we'll get another show. We'll get another show. So I'm like, okay, we'll get another show, and then. Maybe we'll be able to sell advertising and do this, and you'll be able to do that. And she was able to kind of just get us to go, okay, we can do that. Maybe eventually we'll get partnered. That took forever. Okay. Getting partnered. It's a lot different now, YouTube, the way it works. But YouTube used to work to where you'd have to keep. Now they want a lot of their videos monetized. Yeah. So you can monetize your videos, and now there's all these networks and stuff too. Yeah. When we were in the height of it, you had to submit for partnership, and we was like Rudy. We would just keep submitting, and nothing would happen. And finally it happened, because we had a strike on our channel a while ago, because I went to a UFC event and was trying to build subscribers and stuff too, and I didn't take actual footage from the fight. I just took footage from the crowd inside, and UFC put an X on it, and that hurt us for a long time. I had a strike on the channel.
How recent was that?
How recent? Well, it was 2008, late 2008.
Oh, okay.
So the strike was on the channel, though, from 2008 until 2010.
Wow.
Yeah, but we got partnered while we still had the strike on, though. Okay. In 2010. And then when we signed with Machinima, they helped us get contacts, and I called UFC myself. Oh, wow. And then the UFC, I told the guy, look, I'm a huge fan of the UFC. I'm like, I wasn't copyrighting anybody, and I was like, this is my business. I'm trying to do with YouTube. And he's like, yeah, and he got rid of it. So it was really cool. So the strike's gone. We're
that was Dana White then you called?
It was Dana White. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so we the goal. I didn't know what the goal was, and then we almost had a show with AMC that we were supposed to have a late night show. That AMC they paid us for a pilot. Andrew Freed, our really good buddy, a producer, and Martini, and we all worked on it. And we said, all right, let's work on this thing. AMC was going to have us do interstitials, like a late night show, and then Walking Dead hit. Right. And then these other shows really hit even more, and it's like
change the network.
Yeah, and that was what they focused on. They didn't need to focus on us, so we got paid for the pilot, and that was it. And then the Reels was we were supposed to have Reels was going to pay us for a pilot. We had a pilot, and like we did all the Reel shows. We were working with Reels. There's always something happening.
You're always scheming and dreaming, but it seems as though in your head now, and obviously I get that it'd be different than 2007 or 2008, but it seems now you have a master plan. Things happen along the way, and you adjust on the fly. But back then, you didn't envision the Schmoeville empire. You just knew you wanted two guys talking about movies. Or
I think we wanted to always kind of grow the brand. We always knew we wanted to do more. It's just a matter again. But it's the main thing, just like stand up. It's always giving good content. You got to give good content, because otherwise you can grow it as much as you want. But if the fans don't give a shit or they call bullshit on you, that doesn't work. Right. So like and even again going to this whole Man of Steel thing that's going on with the bottom line is Mark gave it he still gave it a positive review. It's one of the fresh 3.2 out of 5. He gave it one of the fresh reviews out of the Rotten Tomatoes scores. But the fans gave him shit for it. But that's what I give both him and myself credit. We won't do this thing, and I'll say it. I don't care. Ain't It Cool News did that. Like they went from being the super geek site, and then they started taking the studios would tell them to do this and do that, and then they became a studio darling, and that's not us. That's not what Mark and I do. We try to be as honest as possible, and I think that's what you got to do, and you got to give good content. And now we have you. We have Mark Riley. We got Josh McCouga. We got Tiffany, Josh the intern. We have this crew now that is just everybody has a purpose. Everybody wants to do something. Everybody's believes in it, and it's not about they're not all about themselves. They're about the brand, and I think that's why it
And when did that start to expand? 2010. When did you guys get the podcast? That was
2011.
I should know, but 2011.
No, that's okay, because that all came about because, well, the funny thing is the way that happened is myself and Mark, we started a live show at Room 5 doing comedy.
Oh, let's not forget about that. Yeah, the Schmoes No Comedy Live.
Schmoes No Comedy Live.
Where I famously got on stage with Roddy Piper, dressed as Roddy Piper.
Right, it was your first interaction with Piper.
Absolutely.
And we would show our videos in between, and that was one of the things that I really knew that my love of stand-up was gone. Because I was more about showing my videos and doing other gimmicky things that I didn't like. Because Sadie says this day, I missed the Room 5. My wife says, I missed the Room 5 shows. They were so much fun. I'm like, why don't you do them again? I'm like, because I don't want to promote a stand-up show. It's not what I want to do anymore. And
it's a lot of work.
It's a ton of work, and not worth it, because I was only charging $5. It wasn't about it was not about the money. It was about trying to promote the brand again. Right. It was the Schmoes No brand, and it worked because Adam Carolla's producer came to the show, and he went to see Naveed McElhargy, who's our buddy, who's an executive, and he did stand up. And so he shows up, and we started talking. And Naveed had done Adam Carolla's show because Naveed, because of the show, had done Deadline and had been on Deadline, and so Naveed got us on Carolla, and they're like, they really like you over there. They want you to come back, and we started doing Carolla all the time. So we did Carolla from, I guess we started in 2010 is when we did this couple of summer shows, and we kept going back like every 3 months, and the fans' responses were good to it. So after about a year of doing Carolla, then we did Doug Benson's show and a few other ones. And then about a year, one of their producers was like, why don't you guys just do your own podcast? Right. And so in 2011, we started, and Katie Sackhoff was our first guest. Right. And we started our own podcast with like a freaking karaoke machine. It was
literally. I mean, better than what I've got here now. But
no, it's not better. This is much better than what we had. It was like 2 cans with a wire attached to it. It was horrendous.
In your room, I think I was your 3rd or 4th guest. I think I was on episodes 3 and 4. I did a session.
You did the Star Wars ones. They're so good. Those ones. Yeah. Those are the early ones. They're really great because it was like this though too. Yeah. And by the way, you're a hypocrite.
I'm a hypocrite. Why is that?
I don't like those podcasts. I'm not going to do podcasts.
And what are you doing now?
Here's you're flipping it around on me here. As I've said many times before, probably too arrogantly, I have a radio background. I was a morning show DJ in Pismo Beach, California for a while. Did the news there. In 1997, I was doing the KBR 95 rock and roll news, with the Bret Hart theme music playing in the background.
Oh, nice.
The same exact style.
Ah.
All I'm doing now is what I did then.
Matt, you just showed the wizard behind the curtain.
I'm just recycling.
Yeah.
It's what I love to do, and people loved it. Be like, "Who's this guy, man?"
Yeah.
Then I got the morning show, and so I had a little radio career, and that's what I was going to do with my career, and I loved it. And broadcasting was my thing. And I lost it all. Woke up one morning and the station had changed formats. I was laid off. I moved to LA to do Groundlings.
Yeah.
And I always said the radio was the best format of entertainment. It's the best pure form of entertainment. It's my favorite thing. It's what I have a passion for. Then this podcasting thing came out, and I just was so above it. I was like, I was really on radio. You're going to go record in your room, and I was judging it for so long, secretly going, I think I want to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I should do that.
Yeah, I mean, I never understood I guess from coming from a radio thing, but radio background, but it was just, it was a no-brainer to do it. Because because I think at the time when we started it, we probably had 2011.
Cheese was producing,
but we probably had between probably 17,000 subscribers at the time.
Yeah, by then, yeah.
When we did it. So then, we had 17,000 subscribers, and we figured, okay, at least maybe even we can bring 1,000 to 2,000 of them over to listen to it and see if they like it.
See if they're right.
Yeah, and we brought in some cool guests. We had Katie on, we had Bonnie on, we had Trevor Ingleson on, Andrew Freed,
John Arnold.
No, he wasn't on then yet.
Not yet.
No, John LaJoie came on, and actually, this is with Cheese. Just before that, John LaJoie was not on yet because then we started realizing people were listening to this thing. And God bless Cheese, John Scheiser, the equipment wasn't good enough. And we met with Katie Levine, who was used to produce over at Corolla's show, and we met with her at a Coffee Bean one day, and we're just like, would you be able to produce a show? And she's like, yeah, I think I could do it. So, and then so she came over, she had the equipment, she had everything. She had the headphones, she had and we're like, whoa, this is okay. It sounds good now. And then and that's when we got. Then we started getting some other guests too, like John LaJoie and Steve Renazzisi, and then Jeremy Johns did his first show, and Katie Levine did around, I guess, 25, 30, 20, anywhere from 25 to 30 shows with us before we went to Toad Hop.
I came back on for the Hunger Games one with her.
That was the last one that she did too,
and I did a couple at your office over in the West Side.
Yeah, and that was the last. Katie. Again, God bless her, because she really got the show to a really good level. She produces over at the Nerdist now.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So she's really, she kicks ass, and she did a lot for us. And then that's also during that time was when we picked up Reitman.
Yeah,
and that was that. And then the way that happened was we were on audition, Mark and I, because we had done a couple of podcasts already, and we were not. No, it wasn't an audition. It was a pilot. We were shooting a pilot that there's just it was like the TMZ type pilot. It was literally at the TMZ offices.
Okay.
With and we were going back and forth, and Harvey Levine, whatever his name.
Harvey Levin, yeah.
Harvey Levin.
I'm a lawyer.
Yeah, and he was the guy in there. It was a different, and Mark and I were stealing the show here, and then to right, this female voice comes out, and it's Reitman, and it was myself, and there's probably 9 to 10 other people in the pilot. But it was just the three of us going back and forth. So then afterwards we had coffee, and I'm like, you should come on the show. You should be on the show. And then I'm thinking about to Ellis, I'm like, she should co-host with us.
Right.
I'm like, she's funny, she knows her shit. She's let's call it what it is. She also comes from a pretty great background. So we was like, okay, great. Let's see how she vibes with us. So the first show she shows up late, which you can hear the show on the 20th. And Ellis gives her crap for being a woman or something too on the show, but it's hysterical. And right then she comes up, and the rhythm was just there.
Yeah.
And she was stuck with, and Catherine was with us for a long, long time. Again, she did a couple of shows when we went to Toad Hop, but very busy, obviously.
Right.
Talented actress, and I think Mama to Be now.
No.
Yeah.
Is that
I think
really?
Yeah, I think we're going to find that out. I think we'll find. I think
Maybe we
by
just
the time
find it out now.
Yeah, but I think by the time this goes up, we'll already have talked about it on the
Okay.
podcast.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's big news.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
So then she comes along, and then that definitely took the podcast to another level.
Yeah, it did.
Then
for
you get
sure.
over to Toad Hop, and now it's live streaming. And that's
Toad
going
Hop,
back.
though. Yeah, okay.
Well, that was when things started to change for me, when I started to see podcasting as something different. When I came to you guys, by that time when you're live streaming, I was like, well, then this is just like radio,
Toad Hop did it different because not a lot of places. I mean, Corolla was doing that too, and a lot of people did it on the UStream and stuff too. But because Heidi and Frank, Frank Kramer, really did it right with the way he set up Toad Hop, and the way that all worked was, because it just was perfect timing really too, because we didn't know, because Katie Levine had told us, she's like, I'm going to do more stuff for Nerdist. I'm not going to be able to do the show anymore. So it's like, all right, we either got to find another producer, or really find out what's going on. Let's find. And then we had a couple other places that said, hey, we like your show. Because at that point, a lot of people were listening to it. But so we're like, what are we going to do? And Ellis was doing Three's Too Much for Toad Hop, and he's like, well, we can talk to Frank Kramer, tell him what we're doing, see if they're interested in a movie show. So I guess we got, when we first started, we got Wednesday mornings.
Yes.
At it was either 8 to 9 or 9 to 10. I can't remember. It was only an hour. So we went to Toad Hop, and it was at Universal Studios,
real close by here.
Yeah.
To the Napzok File Studios.
Mm-hmm. And then I can't remember who our first guest actually on Toad Hop was Jay Harrington.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jay Harrington was our first guest at Toad Hop, and it was I remember sitting there just going, because we didn't have a female co-host at the time. We just said, it was just back to Mark and I, and I just remember thinking, it feels like it's going to a whole new level now. And then that's when we could start taking callers. And then it felt more real.
Changes the game.
It changed the game because it felt more. I knew people were listening beforehand, but I really knew now because then they were calling in.
Yeah.
And then you could talk to them, and then you could get the real emotion to feel how they're really feeling about it, and then you just felt it grow, and then you get your regular callers. And George McCann. I think he called in from the beginning.
Georgie's been calling in.
He's been calling,
and even Josh the intern called in earlier.
Yeah, he did. That's true. You can actually hear JTI on the
Sex and Movies one.
Yeah, with my ex-wife Bonnie Somerville.
Yeah, allegedly.
So you can hear that.
So did you at that point think? What were you thinking at this point? It's to the next level. Now you have an audience that you can play with.
The wheels started going at that point, because then it was like, okay, now we can start getting, because again, and by that point, that's a year already. By the time we moved from the podcast, from how we started it up into Toad Hop, that's a full year. So the viewership grew, and the subscribers had grown at that point. We were already getting into press screenings.
Yeah, but this time you're no longer paying for movies.
No,
it's a thing now.
The end of 2010, I think, is when the press started, because of all the Corolla. That helped originally, was Corolla and the fact that we had launched a website in 2010 as well. Mm-hmm. The first run at the website. So that started happening. But then when Fandango and Movies.com hired us to become their regular movie reviewers, and then we got certified on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, that's when then the studios were just like, okay, you guys are legit now.
And now you're the first YouTube movie reviewers to be certified by the Motion Picture Association, correct?
Yeah,
quite a feather in the cap.
Yeah, and
because it's a new age. Eventually there will be tons.
I hope. Yeah, that's the goal. And we're the first YouTube movie reviewers to ever be certified on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right. Did Grey Drake help with that? Is she instrumental in that?
No, Grey Drake wasn't at Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, okay. I thought she was.
No, the funny thing about had Grey Drake not gone to Rotten Tomatoes, Mark and I wouldn't be working at Movies.com Fandango as reviewers. We had our top 5 videos already.
Yeah.
But the way that worked was Matt Atchity, who is the editor-in-chief of Rotten Tomatoes, who has been on our show before, and we were talking to, he was the one I brought, he was on the podcast, and I talked to him about getting YouTube movie reviewers certified. And that it starts, you can listen to that podcast, that conversation starts there about how it all happens. And then it was a process, but then it happened. But one day he was, we're at a screening, and I heard him talking. I was sitting next to him, and I heard him talking to another buddy of ours, and he's like, yeah, Gray's leaving Movies.com, and she's coming to Rotten Tomatoes. Light bulb goes off in my head. I go home right after the screening, and I wrote my guys over at Movies.com, and I'm like, hey, I know that there's an opening now. Would you guys ever want video guys for, because Dave White was their written articles, and he's great, love him. So why don't you? Would you want written on one side and then video on the other side? And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. So it was great. So then had Gray not moved over, that opportunity wouldn't have happened.
All the finely woven tapestry.
It is. It really is.
So this is now we're in spring of 2012. You're at Toad Up at Universal City Walk. I think I popped my head up there a few times, but this time I could listen to you guys more regularly because
I called you after every show.
You used to call me. Yeah, that's right. Oh, I remember those memories. You'd call me. How was it? How was it? And I would have rolled.
You're my
out of
producer
bed.
before you're my producer.
Yeah. And you do this, do that. That was good. And then I went up. Katie was going to be on the show. Sackhoff.
Yeah.
And I had not met her yet.
Right.
And I was kind of like, hey, now I've seen the show. Now I want to meet her.
Right.
And you're like, come on up to the studios. And it was a great show that she was on. And I watched from the green room. And then it seems like from around that time, you Mark really focused on the podcast as the next extension of the brand. So where did you have a plan at that point?
I think so, because it was, again, I mean, the website was still not, because to me, I mean, I guess we'll get into it in a little bit here, but the website to me is the one that I think the hub of it all, and that was still not.
Now it is. Back then, Schmoes.
No, not yet. It was up, but it wasn't what it is.
It was
right
different.
now.
Yeah, it was a bit of an older website at the time too.
But the podcast, I came home to my wife one day and I said, I really think the podcast is the one that is going to get us to the next level, because I think the fans really respond to it. I think that they can hear more. Like if they dig what we do on the YouTube channel, they can see more of it. They get more of the personalities. And at the time, it was just, again, myself and Mark, and we didn't have a co-host again. And then we were going back and forth because Toad Hop and GoCast at the time were going back and forth. They split off into two things, and we originally were going to go with GoCast, and then we just decided that wasn't the move. So we did one show at GoCast, and Katie had done one show right before it went to GoCast, and she came over, and we had asked her. We said, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm on hiatus." Katie Sackhoff. She's like, "I'm on hiatus right now." I'm like, "Would you?" Because we had fun the last two times you're on, would you have any interest in co-hosting the show with us? And she's like, yeah, that would be great. So, I would definitely do that. I mean, I'm probably going to have to leave here and there. I'm like, it's cool. That'd be great. So, of course, not only did she vibe with us, it's fucking Katie Sackhoff. So why would you not want to do it? So she, so then we decided to make the move, go back to Toad Hop. And then for our first show back at Toad Hop, we had Sean Astin, Jeremy Johns.
Right.
Come in, and that was our back. That was like, hey, we're back, and that was the show, I think, because it brought in Katie fans, it brought in Sean Astin fans, it brought in Jeremy Johns fans, and it brought our fans all together, and said, well, this show's pretty cool. It's pretty fun, and you get good guests, you take calls from the fans, you talk about stuff that we like, and it got tweets from you guys.
Yeah, I'd tweet in.
Yeah, you
mad tweeter.
You were the mad tweeter at the time, and that was the thing, is that I said, Mark and I were like, let's just we need personalities here. We need this, and I still say to this day, it was funny that there was a contest between you and Makuga. Yeah,
me and Makuga. I'd met Makuga once at a stand-up show at 3 clubs. I knew him from Casual Mafia, but I didn't know him much, and he's tweeting, and I was like, I got to be funnier than this guy. Yeah. No one can beat me at the written word.
Yeah.
And we're tweeting back and forth, but he was fucking funny.
He was funny.
And then you put out this contest that he didn't even know.
I know.
He claims to this day he didn't know.
He was more dormant that day than normally.
Yeah.
So it was like fate. Because
was Trisha Helfer there that day? Because I was in studio.
I don't know.
I was in studio that day. It was Trisha Helfer and Katie Sackhoff.
You were
were
sitting in the.
I was sitting in the corner, and you were like, you only got 3 tweets.
Okay.
And I had chomping at the bit.
And we said whoever would win this contest will come back next week as a producer of the show.
And I was given a gift because early on I had covered for Trisha for about 15 minutes on air, and she was running late. And so you referred to me as Trisha's fluffer. So they gave me a running joke for the show, and I think I got my tweets out.
And then isn't that funny how that works out? Because then the next week that was your first show as producer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy, if I'd known then.
Who was your first guest? As running producer,
my first guest,
was it Gambino? Must have been Gambino because that was JTI's first show.
It might have been.
Yeah,
I know my first task as producer was to hire Josh the intern.
That's hysterical.
And interview him. You're like, all right, here's this kid. And you called him a kid. He's like 90. And then I'm expecting this 20-year-old kid, kind of like we have Schmo Kid right now. I was expecting this kid like, oh, I want to get you coffee, Mr. Harloff. Yeah. And it's some guy been traveling.
Was he sleeping when he
was sleeping? He'd been traveling the world. To get a hold of him, it took like 2 hours to get a hold of this guy. We're at the farmer's market where you and I used to meet on the upstairs.
Yeah. And, is that where you met him?
Yeah, I met him up there, and old time's sake.
Yeah.
And yeah, guy, I'm like this, and he knew, and he'd listened to every show.
Well, that's the thing about him.
He'd been
as much as we break his balls, he's a fan. He knew all the movie reviewers. He knew the world, and he knows his movies. He really knows his movies.
He's seen a lot of movies, kids. I've seen like 5.
He knows his stuff. He is the perfect guy for that role on the show. I mean, he really is good, and he does. And what's so great about JTI also is the fact that you can. If you ask him to be like, okay, I need this video to be put together, can you help me out? He'll do it. He was working on an hour and a half of sleep, and he did WonderCon with us.
He did WonderCon. I mean, to say he had an hour and a half of sleep at WonderCon is generous.
Yeah.
He was up almost the entire day.
Yeah.
And great guy, Josh the intern. So he's there, and I remember Katie's coming in and out, and she's getting ready to shoot Longmire. And then we had Tiffany Smith come in as a guest host with Sean Stone on.
Yeah.
And I was guest hosting / producing that one, and we watched his horror film, and so we kind of
trying out Tiffany.
We kind of clicked with Tiffany.
Yeah, because we knew Katie was going to leave eventually.
We knew eventually, and she was going off to do Riddick and all the other stuff, Longmire, and then that horror film that's still coming out.
Right.
And Tiffany comes in, and she's the ultimate geek girl. She's geek chic, and she knows her stuff, and she's legit and fun to get along with. And it was kind of clicking there. We kind of knew we had something here.
Yeah, met her at an audition.
You meet all your girls at the auditions.
No, that was again. We met her at because it was some movie thing. Mark and I were going back and forth with her, and we're like, okay, she's cool. Tweets back and forth, and then she came in, and you just knew it because she's so rare. She's cute. She's funny, but she knows her stuff, like geeky stuff too. Like again, Katie has all that stuff, but is not the biggest movie aficionado or geek
because she's busy making the movies,
right? The way that Tiffany is though. Tiffany knows Tiffany will comic book stuff. She can school a lot of people. So so she was a great find, and again, obviously, Schmoeville loves her, so it was great to have her on the show.
Yeah, and then one night we're sitting there, we're going to have a little competition with Josh the intern and another intern to determine who would stay.
Yeah,
and by this time I'm producing, and I'm trying to bring in my radio. The show's now formatted, Kristian. You have 5 minutes to talk about this.
How much did I drive you crazy with that?
All the time. Ellis is the real pro there. And I'm doing the news, and I was like, it was weird. I never told you. I was sitting around one day listening to your guys' show, and I said, I would love to do the news like I used to do on KBR 95 back in the day. And then you were like, hey, would you like to, the producing thing came up, and then I think it just kind of came around naturally, like, hey, let me do the news headlines.
Yeah.
So you let me grow with that. But so we're coming in, we're going to do a contest, and you say, hey, meet me across the street at Buffalo Wild Wings. I go, okay, I'll pop over there, and we're running the contest. So I get over there, and there's Justine Marino, Josh McCouga, and Mark Riley.
Yeah. And
they're sitting there with you and Ellis, and you guys are running the contest, like running the questions to make sure it's working. And I'm like, cool, that's great, that's fun. And I knew all these people in passing, this and that. And all right, time to go to the show. We all get up. Justine's like, all right, good night, see you guys. And McCouga and Riley are coming along with us. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Right.
Why aren't they going?
Oh, why are they
and you're
leaving?
like, oh, they're the writers of the show now.
Oh,
is that how I found out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how I found out. I was like, I came on, there was 4 of us. Now there's 9 of us.
Right. So and that was and it was funny for everyone to accept that at first, because I remember when we on our iTunes comments, there was one guy who's like, at first it was just those guys, now it's like a morning zoo thing. I don't know if I like it. And then the same guy wrote back, he's like, I love it. But
so it has changed. The show has changed without a doubt. Dramatically. What do you feel about it? How do you balance the craziness? And it does turn into a zoo anytime you bring Finstock on.
Sometimes I miss.
He's banned now, right? Did I check my notes?
Finstock is not. No. Finstock now is becoming more popular than ever. He's the most powerful he's been. Sometimes I miss this type of thing with the back and forth, because you can get into. I think that again, people will open up to you more when it's when
you have Coronas and it's quieter. Yeah.
But the flip side of that is too, it's harder to get those big guests in this unless you're like Mark Maron, who can bring in people to his garage. But I mean, it's we have a studio, we get the good guests. It's it's that fun show, and it is fun. We've gotten some fun stuff. I mean, to where we had Tricia Helfer to admit that she dated Stallone when she was 17. You know,
Right.
we've had some really fun contests. We've talked a lot of movies, and I think that's the thing is, it can get heated in there and have some fun. And I think that it's I don't know. I don't think anybody's doing what we're doing right now.
It is different. It's the groundwork, I think, for an eventual TV show.
Yeah.
You know, it's gone beyond podcasting, and it's now an event and a show. And at times, you know, my job's to balance out the craziness, keep the alcohol away from Andrew Santino. That's my job. But it definitely leaves a mark because you have someone like Maria Menounos comes on who's been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah. Tell you what her boyfriend said to me at the party?
Well, I was going to say, but you say it because he said it to you.
He said that she's been doing these shows for a long time, and she really, really has a great time. Like, our show's one of her favorite shows.
Yeah. She asked to come back the second time. I got a call from her producer saying, I'm from the office of Maria Menounos. She's the host of Extra. I was like, yeah, I know who she is. I've been watching her since 1999. Thank you, sir. He goes, she'd like to come back on your show.
See, like that type of stuff to me, that's why I do this. Because it really is that it's a satisfaction that you're doing something. You're doing something fun because, and again, the original first time she came on the show, she said she was staying for 10 or 15 minutes and she stayed for an hour. You know, and the second time as well. And every time people come in, they have fun because we're having fun. You know, and one of my main things that I want to do is I want you to be able to do this. For us full time. I want Riley to manage. Riley is kicking ass at the website. I want him to do that full time. I think because we believe in it, Schmoeville believes in it, and I think that it really can. We can be that next because we're a different type of entertainment source because we are the normal people that are doing it. Like we're geeky 100%.
Right.
But I feel like we are those average Joes.
There's crossover appeal. I hang around with a lot of Uber nerds, and these are professional nerds who make a lot of money and have a lot of success, and not all of them make a lot of money, but it's their life. I mention a Yankee game, they draw a blank.
Right.
And it's not all about sports, and I think sports and superheroes are the same thing, really, but you are the guys who watch Yankee games or football games, they're also going to the movies. Yeah. And I think a lot of the geek culture now, it's a marketing tool now, and I get it makes a lot of money, but it cuts out a lot of people who they're not against geeks, it's not nerd bullying, it's just like, well, you know, that's not my thing, I'm gonna go have a beer with the boys and I'm gonna go watch Man of Steel. So Schmoes incorporates across it, but then you bring in someone like Tiffany, this gorgeous woman with a Lord of the Rings tattoo on. So it reaches across the aisles, so to speak.
But I think that's what's great about our audience is that we have people who are like diehard Yankee fans. We have someone who's never even watched a single second of baseball. And I think that's what speaks volumes about our brand and the people because I don't think anybody should feel excluded listening or watching our stuff.
And that's we can kid and joke even in studio and even with some of our guests, but. We definitely it's everyone's welcome in Schmoeville
for sure, and I think that's coming across. I really do because the audience is growing. We had 8,000 listeners a month when we were doing it in the beginning, and now we have almost 300,000 a month. It's great, and it's one of these things that I just want to keep doing it. I honestly, you asked what the goal is too. I would love to do the show, if it's a TV show, we're doing it 5 days a week. I think that there's enough. I think there's enough movie news and stuff that we can do, and topics and conversations that we can do.
And the culture of movies. It's not just what's coming out now. It's there's so much to talk about there. Is that? Do you have any concrete long-term goals? Where do you take the Empire from here? You're driving the boat, you and Ellis.
Well, I think again, the website right now, we launched a site, and to your credit, I give you the credit on really pushing me on that because it's something we always wanted to do, and you're like, all right, we got to, the website, and then we were going to do another web series, about how Ellis and I kind of started. We were going to do a web series on that. We wrote it. We were doing rehearsals for it, and we had everything ready to go, and then we're like, do we want to spend the money on this right now? Or do we want to spend the money on revamping the website? Right. So we did that. We revamped the website, and Mark Riley the guy sent from heaven.
The poor guy. I'd hired about 11 new writers. I think about 5 ended up sticking on, but as that's the reason you hire more. But I was posting. I'm working till 2 in the morning. got my day job, got the producing, doing. I'm also a screenwriter and I run a pro wrestling company. So I'm up to 2 a.m. putting up all this stuff, and then I asked Riley for help. The poor guy, now it's all his, and I feel so bad. But
here's the thing with him. It's so you actually had it really rough because it was so scattered beforehand, and the articles and stuff were. Yeah. Not that Riley isn't have it rough. I mean,
He's got it rough.
I've been with him. I was with him yesterday, and the guy sits there, and he's just at his computer finding articles, posting them, and you talk about numbers. When we had the old site, we would have maybe 800 unique users daily. Now we have almost 5,000 daily, and that's all Riley. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
All the content we have too. Riley's really kicking ass with that. So. The website is what I love about the website is that it's got everything. You can find our podcast there. You can find our reviews there. You can find Schmo Plus stuff there. You can find all movie news. That's what's so great about it. So the hub is there, and I think that is really the next level because that's everything. The YouTube channel, of course, we just hit 50,000 subscribers. We want to get that to a higher number. But I think that eventually, what I want to do is. You mentioned sports and stuff. Why not Schmoes Know Sports? Why not Schmoes Know Movies? Schmoes Know Production Company. Schmoes Know, it's the first step is just getting it's getting again. You can't just do it to do it. You got to do it because there's a demand for it and that people want to see it. So if it's like eventually, if we have
you got to do it right.
You got to do it right, and it's if we have an idea that the fans want to see eventually, and that it's a web series or if it's an idea that we come up with as a comedy that we all do together, great, so be it. But it's just, regardless, we're all there and it's exciting.
I've got a show to pitch actually right now, live on the air.
Yes.
All right. Go picture.
Yeah. We've done that in a while. We got to do that.
Yeah, we got to do it. Schmoes Know Wilderness, and we send Bobby Finstock out to the wilderness for a month to see if he can survive. No?
He already does that. He's sleeping in the woods right now.
Underneath a bear.
You love Finstock now. You've come around on
I've come around on Bob.
Yeah. That's another thing you talk about. What's different about the show? The show has a bunch of characters on it. It's got wildness that can have. That's what I love about the show. You can have a full episode about a movie. Like again, we Man of Steel podcast.
We did that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be a full. It's just full spoilers and you have conversations, and the next week could be a trivia battle, and you got a Playboy model sitting on an intern's lap. It's just crazy.
We haven't done that in a while either.
We haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, the show, it's a celebration of film, and it's always open for debate, and we always welcome everyone in, even when we post a Star Wars story that pisses everyone off.
Or it gets people excited.
Yeah, it does.
I think it's a both. I think that's the beauty of it is that and that's also what that story did though too, because that's one of the things that we said. How do you not post that story? How do you not post a story that is it legitimate? Is it 100% fact? No. Who knows? I shouldn't say no. Who knows?
Who knows, yeah.
Because if it is fact, we're going to come off like, oh, maybe you shouldn't have just pissed on these guys right away. And if it's not, it's like, but at least they got it out there for you. Because I guarantee any of those other sites that were shitting on it would have posted it immediately had they gotten it. And I'll talk about, and I didn't talk about it on the show. This Drew McWeeny guy.
Yeah.
Why are you being such a douche? The guy was a writer on Ain't It Cool News for a long time, and I respect his work.
Right.
And he does Hit Fix now. Very respectful. I mean, the guy, again, I respect everything that he's done. He's created a really good name for himself. Has a lot of good contacts. He didn't know us. He comes out and just says that we're looking for hits and that we're doing this and that it's bullshit and there's this and that. It's like, why not do something classy like no? But still, it's
he lives in Northridge. I'll find him.
But that's the type of thing to me that makes me say we've arrived,
right?
Because if he's talking about us, and I mean, and you didn't mention our names, whatever. But it's the fact that did we really piss you off that much just because we posted this story?
Right.
Stuff like that. Right. It just gets on my nerves.
So the future is wide open in Schmoeville, and it's been a long, hard road. You've been putting work into this since really 2007.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
Yeah,
and we're only growing. This episode, I didn't make you cry or cringe, but I think this is the episode the fans wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Of the Schmoeville, and the podcast brand isn't growing too. We're starting to record the Schmoes Know Writer Room episode.
Yeah, when's that? Did you record those?
I've recorded at this juncture. By the time this airs, I'll probably have more under the belt. I recorded the first one with Brittany Wallach and Matt Key, all about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, great.
and it's a good, fun hour, and that stuff's coming out. So we're going to have Schmoes No Writers Room, maybe after Schmoes with Makuga and Finstock. Who knows? The world is wide open for Schmoeville, and you are the captain of the ship, along with Mark Ellis, along with Martini. You know, a lot of people. Used to be, but I love hearing the story of all the characters that kind of made this happen. All the heads you have trampled over on the way to the top. No, I'm kidding. And from a member of Schmoeville, from the inside and out, I thank you for the world you've let us play with. Sometimes we mess up in the world, but it's still your world to play in. And I'm excited for the future. Next time I'm going to have you on, though, we're going to make you cry.
That's fine. We'll talk about the best and worst of show.
Yeah. All right. That never happened. It was stricken from the record. Catherine Wright back on the show. Really? I recall something from that. All right. That has been the Napzok Files. I'm Ken Napzok. That was Kristian Harloff. Make sure you follow the Schmoes at Schmoes No, and also Kristian Harloff's personal Twitter page, Kristian Harloff. And that is that. I really would have rather you ended with a fart noise.